It's a beautiful day and good to have you on ATM Blowout. ATM Blowout is syndicated live program of the network. Our work here is very simple. We bring you conversation on special interest topics through news, events, and stories. And of course, not forgetting correspondent reports, expert opinions, and stakeholders analysis. So today on ATM Blowout, we kick off, of course, with Anchor's Charge. On Anchor's Charge, we're looking at Police Service Commission Chairman Arese condemns wicked, dastardly murder of DPO. And in Rivers State, police arrest six suspects of a DPO murder. In Lagos State, PDP laments public harassment of Lagosians by state agents. Northeast governors accuse traditional rulers of collaboration with bandits. Catholic bishops say Nigeria on uncertainty precipice. Mountain of Fire and Miracles head Olukoye cautions prophets on wrong predictions. Sarah petitions governors demand detailed spending of palliative funds. Junta accused France of planning military intervention. It's going to be a full Monday morning. Our resource person on the show is Ambassador Roland Ernest T. Douglas. He is an oil and gas expert and many more, but he's been on the show this morning as socio-political analyst. We'll take a short break. Let's have a conversation around the position of Solomon Arase's on a position on the murder of the DPO, Ahoda DPO. But we'll be back to you after the break.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
human trafficking.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds. I am in the
All right, welcome back to ATM Blowout. And now let's talk about issues, one of the strongest issues in the news. So, the chairman of the Police Service Commission, Dr. Solomon Arase, IGP retired, has condemned We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Apologies, everyone. Welcome back to ATN's Anchor's Chat on Blowouts. The chairman of the Police Service Commission, Dr. Solomon Arase, IGP retired, condemns the dastardly and wicked murder and beheading of the divisional police officer of DPO, DPO of Ahoda in Rivers State, SP Bako Anbashim, who was ambushed with his men while trying to contain the bloody attack by a deadly gang of cultists in the Dumede area of Ahoda East. Dr. Arase also commiserated with the Inspector General of Police, Olukayode Gbetukun, the Commissioner of Police in Rivers State Command, Polycarp Emeka Nwoyi, and the family of the slain senior police officer on this unfortunate development, especially now that the nation was gradually winning the war against criminals and criminality across the country. The Police Service Commission chairman noted that the mother of the gallant officer who fought till the end to save Odumude community will not in any way extinguish the indomitable fighting spirit of our police officers in the war against social disorders. He promised that the Commission will do everything within its constitutional powers to support and encourage the police to ensure that the criminals are apprehended and brought to justice. Now, over the weekend, we woke up Saturday morning in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, to hear that SP Bako Anbashim has been murdered. SP Anbashim is one of the finest police officers that ever emerged from this part of this country. This man is not just committed, he goes the extra mile to ensure that he delivers on his expected duties. He's an Ogoni man by tribe, but however, you know, aside of the Ogonis, a lot of persons have nothing but awesome testimonies to say about this man. Unfortunately, we lost him to the hands of those, the community where he went to protect them, I know, and then the cultists that has been harbored by this community, you know, kind of got caught up with him. They didn't just murder him, they dismembered him in bits and pieces. The remains of this man is spreading around on our smart devices, some on social media platforms. Yes, the Police Service Commission is doing the needful, but we want more. There are several things what I expected. I believe several Nigerians expected from the Police Service Commission chairman, Dr. Solomon Arase. For instance, don't just encourage, you know, yes, condemn the wicked dastardly murder of the DPO. We are all doing that. We actually need to, when you say that it's not going to discourage the indomitable spirit of the officers, I don't know how you think that this won't. The CP has marched down there and some progress is being made. The governor of the state has placed 100 million bounty on anyone with useful information on the kingpin of this cult. But now we want to know that this man deserves better than, you know, encouraging his people, saying that his spirit will not just go down. This becomes a pertinent opportunity for the Police Service Commission to honestly look back and say, hey, when we have such men, it's important to even begin to honor them while they are still alive so that they become an example before their people, their peers, their colleagues. It's important to project them if they have sacrificed their comfort such to the point that, you know, they have put themselves out there to be the shining light in Rivers State Police or the regional police or the Nigerian police, as a matter of fact. One thing we expect is that even while he's alive, if you look at this man, if you look at his uniform, if you look at what he looks like, I know you're asking yourself, this is a senior police officer, a DPO. He's not a deputy police officer. Now, if you look at him, though the barefoot ahead is his style, I don't know how true that is, or maybe he cannot afford a proper footwear. But if you look aside his feet, if you look at what he's wearing, this tells you the state of the average Nigerian police officer. So now, this is, some of them will say this is the reason why you see them harassing motorists on the way, commuters, and, you know, just to see that they get some money from them. So if you look at SP Ambashim, what he looks like, forget about his body structure. Maybe he's not just a plus-size person like myself, you know what I mean? But in what he's dressing, his dress sense is an aberration for a senior officer to be dressed that way. So we want to see the Police Service Commission go beyond, you know, saying this will not kill. I don't know how you intend to do this. Men like this should be well remunerated. They should be well cared for. Their uniform, they should appear, maybe if he's an Olumba man, for instance, Brotherhood of the Cross and Staff, they don't have footwear on. You know, on most cases, maybe when they're going for, maybe that's, I don't know, or maybe that's just his pattern. Maybe it could be that he could not, because people are looking at it like maybe he has some jazz he's doing, and that's why he's on barefoot. What, have you looked at what he's wearing on his body? What if he cannot afford a proper footwear? Have we even asked ourselves that? Why are we concluding that, oh, the reason why he's on barefoot? Because if you look at his appearance, now you begin to ask yourself, why would a senior, any police officer, as a matter of fact, whether even senior or not, appear in such apparel? Now, the humble officer has sacrificed his life for the force and died in the process. That's okay. But there's another side to this. So like I said, welfare of police officers should become a major concern for the Police Service Commission. Let's not even begin to talk about ifs or maybes. This because you cannot tell me that the IGP recognizes such a man for what he has done. Was he celebrated while he was alive? We had no idea. If not for his death, a lot of us are not even aware that there is one police officer that has stood himself out amongst the lot we see on the road that is harassing us every day. Among the lots that we see that use every opportunity to arrest and detain people, innocent people. If there is one such police officer, what you need to do is to project him more as a role model for his peers. That's how this thing is done. It's not just to keep mum and just allow him to keep sacrificing, and now he's passed on. We are waiting for the police officer. I know you have your ways, but this particular case is touching to us because if you can't afford it, we know you're not being well funded, so to say. It's time to raise a GoFundMe. My 1 naira will go a long way. Another person's 2 naira will go a long way. We don't want to hear that this man who sacrificed so much passed unkilled in the line of, I mean, several people have died in the line of duty, but we are particular about this man because without even meeting him, he says this, the testament of his life, of the noble life he lived. I mean, everybody's calling him a hero. If he's indeed a hero, since we have failed to crown him while he was living, can we now ensure that we actually project him, celebrate this man? Listen, one of the major problems Nigerians have is the fact that they don't agree with the Nigerian police. Fortunately for me, I happen to know several good officers. I have an uncle who is one. I have friends, several of them who are my friends who are good police officers. But, you know, we don't know, several of them are not that good. So why don't we begin to think of, we're supposed to have this conversation, what can we do to ensure that we celebrate this man? Are we talking about state burial? It may not have to be at the level of a governor, but this is when Nigerians need to put our emotions and our money, no matter how small it is, to ensure that if there's an opportunity for the dead to look back into the earth, he rejoices to know that his efforts didn't go in vain. Now, that is what I think will also be a motivation for others, you know, who would want to go the extra. I believe there are several police officers who want to go the extra mile. But when they look at how their superior died in the line of duty and their families abandoned in most cases, and nobody is talking about the remuneration that is due them or what should be done, you discover that it dampens the spirit of those who would have loved to go the extra mile to do their job as genuine police officers. So, for what is what, we are going to find a way to ensure that this man, the pain we have in our hearts for the horrible death he had to go through, that we don't just feel that pain and, you know, let it go like one of those things. No. We have to, the Police Service Commission will have to say, no, tell us what needs to be done to ensure, like we said, the family he left behind will not feel the impact. Yes, they might miss him, but let it also be that they know that I have this scholarship, I live in a better house, I can, you know, have a better job, I can have a better business because my father made the sacrifice. So when we're able to do this, I believe it goes a long way to create a paradigm shift, boost the morale of the officers who are in the field to know that I can also stand out as SP Angbashim, knowing that, I mean, who knows when we're all going to die anyway? And I mean, nobody knows in the next 5 minutes I will no longer be on earth as a human. Nobody can say that. But for every opportunity we have to serve other humans, that is how we serve God primarily. So while we serve, let us look back and say, okay, we can serve because someone has done it and the person was, you know, appreciated. Looking at this man as a DPO from Ogoni to Ahoda, and not just how he died, but how he lived honorably, even against, I would just also say testament to the Ogonis. I mean, they have always been known to be this kind of people. I mean, there are a lot of bad eggs these days, but originally, the average Ogoni, this is what an Ogoni man is known for. And I also hope that the Ogonis can also use this opportunity to you know, to celebrate the life and times of this man, because this is actually the of what Ogonis are known for. You know, growing up, you will hear Ogoni pure. Some of them took offense to it because they don't know that it's actually something that was said because they were seen as people who were pure and straightforward, who don't steal, who don't do a lot of those things. But that was back then. So, but if there is one from the old, a chief from the old block who is standing out, who has stood out in a profession that majority of them are known to be doing the opposite of what they should be doing, which is protection of lives and property. If he has stood out to be that person, the least we can do is not just to honor his life and times, yes, he's passed on, but to ensure that his name goes down as an actual hero. Like I said, one of the things, because he's become an example, like I said, if you look at that man, what he's wearing as uniform on his body, it's a shame to actually say that a DPO can be seen in that state. It's an embarrassment to the Nigerian police force. However, while we say that, so it's time for the Police Service Commission to begin to look at their men and how to genuinely care for these men. If it means that you need to begin to ask for donor agencies to support you, I'm sure there are some of them who will do that. I'm sure if you call for cooperation with some of these organizations in terms of, as part of their corporate social responsibilities, some would genuinely provide. Sometimes you see what this meant. There's a lady I usually see in the night, she's on a plus size, a police officer. What she wears is like a lycra material. And now when she's controlling the traffic, every part of her body is everywhere. And I'm like, this is supposed to be a police officer. This is not even the uniform. But again, can you blame her? Are you even sure that she has been given a change of uniform form since she got into the force? The stories can be very devastating for these officers. So for those who are genuine, I hope that the Police Service Commission will not just end in condemning the wicked and dastardly act, but will go out of their way to bring about a paradigm shift, using this man as an example. He can actually be celebrated beyond this. I mean, several officers have died, but you see this one, we know that this one has given his flesh, his blood, his life to the service, to the police service. So he deserves much more than all of this conversation from the Police Service Commission or the acting Inspector General of Police. So for what is what, let this become a way of saying we knew one man called one good police officer called SP Bako Angbashim. He lived and he sacrificed so much to ensure that, I mean, every average Ogoni you see on the road, and then you ask them a question about this, I was at Sizu, and you ask them, everything they have to say about this, and this man brought peace in Ogoni. This man was the reason why we can go home. And all of those conversations, and everybody have known that Ahoda has been one of those scary terrain as a result of the kind of killings or murder, if you may, that comes from there. So now that it has gotten our officer, one of our officers down, and in such a very deeply sad way, we all can do more than just condemning the act. We want to see the Police Service Commission go out of the way, use this as a reason to do something better, design a better program for them, design a better remuneration, do something. That, it doesn't even be that it wasn't funded. Who knows? There may just be a pharaoh that will rise up and ensure that the children of God can, a king, president, that can come into power and say, hey, there is a need to protect these men who actually sacrifice their lives to protect us, to ensure that they are covered as much as possible. I don't know what their insurance policy is like. I don't even know if there is one. But if there is one, there is need to upgrade it, because we know several officers who pass on in the line of duty like this, and their family are literally on their own, in as much as the police provide something little. But is that enough? I hope and pray that this man's passing, death, becomes a reason for the Police Service Commission to do more than condemning the dastardly act. And that's been Anchor's chance to come back to you after the break.
From life across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring.
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought a very family.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Action broadcasters, independent producers, and content streamers. This is your chance to buy or sell quality content. At Africast 2023, the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, will be launching the very first ever Nigerian TV and film content hub. Join us from the 24th to the 26th of October at the Marriott Hotel Ikeja, Lagos, and be part of a game-changing experience. Content Hub is your destination for content acquisitions, aggregation, licensing, and distribution of both local and international programs across for broadcasters in Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. Content Hub, your easy and affordable access to quality and affordable content. Don't miss out. The Africast Content Hub, brought to you by the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, in collaboration with NIFS.
Are you a broadcaster, content creator, content distributor, or media practitioner seeking opportunities to amplify your creativity and expand your network? Then join us at the 13th edition of Africast. Africast 2023 offers participants the opportunity to experience 3 days of world-class exposition through plenaries, streamings, master classes, and workshops showcasing the very best in creativity and technological advancements in the global broadcast and media ecosystem. Theme: broadcast content, synergy, finance, and market. Date: Tuesday the 24th of October to Thursday the 26th of October 2023. Venue: Marriott Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting.
All right, welcome back to ATM Blowout, everyone. Now, before we get on with the issue around the suspects, 6 suspects arrested over the DPO's murder in Rivers State, I'd like to welcome very own Ambassador Roland NST Douglas. Good to have you on ATM Blowout.
Good morning, viewers. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's get into Rivers State now. Operatives of the Rivers State Police Command have arrested 6 suspects from Odiamudie in Akko Kingdom, Ahoda East local government area of the state, over the killing of the district police officer of Ahoda Police Division, Mr. Bako and Bashin. You recall that cultists terrorizing Akko Kingdom and its environs had on Friday killed and decapitated the body of SP Bako, a superintendent of police, causing serious security breach in the area. Following the development, the Rivers State Governor Sasiminaye Fubara had placed 100 million bounty on the prime suspect fingered in the murder, Gifts Okbara Okpolowo, popularly called Tubaba. The police commissioner, Wuyemeka, also moved into the area with heavy security mobilization in search of the killers. Pillar Curtis and restoration of peace and normalcy in the troubled area on Saturday. However, Governor Fubara, who is enraged with the development yesterday, convened an emergency security council meeting in Government House, Port Harcourt, with heads of all security agencies in the state to review the situation. The meeting was attended by notable military heads. Fubara in the meeting specifically tasked the security agencies to get the prime suspect, Gift Okmara Opolowu, at all costs, as a clear statement that the state is not a safe haven for criminals. The governor, who described the incident as an unfortunate and barbaric, sympathized with the Nigerian police and the family of the slain officer and vowed to make the state unsafe for criminal activities, expressing confidence in the security agencies to apprehend the culprit. Governor Fubara said it is really unfortunate that in our state, where we are doing everything to reduce crime, a group of miscreants portray the state as being unsafe. We honestly feel sad over this incident. As a government, we will not rest until whoever is responsible for this act is brought to book. He said, we have gone further to show our commitment in this issue by placing a bounty on criminals and also suspended the traditional ruler of that locality. We will do everything on our part to ensure we get to the end of this matter. We must get him at all costs. The Rivers State has never and will not be a home of criminality. He said, I believe that the caliber of men that are heading the security unit of the state will do everything within their powers to settle these matters. The Governor Fubara maintained that as a government, we will not rest until whoever is responsible for this act is brought to book. He prayed that Almighty God will give the family of the slain police officer the fortitude to bear this irreparable loss. Okay. First of all, let's give kudos to the Rivers State governor for his proactive step when this news broke. He has not rested. He's been on it. It's coming across as more personal for him. Now, this meeting, he had the heads of security agencies in the meeting and basically made a statement that this man, the Okmara man, has to be caught. I'd like to have you react to these issues.
Well, first and foremost, we sympathize with the family of the late SP Bako, who apparently has been doing a good job from all the commentaries that have come on different platforms. Then secondly, I also want to commend the governor for his reactions, even though we would rather prefer them being proactive than being reactive. And it is so very unfortunate that we have this kind of incident when, all axis of our state has been put on security alert because of the recent kidnappings and call clashes that have been ongoing. Just a sad situation and a sad day, and also a sad day not only for the family but also for the police and the state at large. So I hope that these miscreants, these criminals are caught and they are executed according to the law. And I also hope that the family of the late SP Bako are also well compensated and their children also being assisted, to reduce the burden of his absence.
All right, thank you for that. Now, when the governor says the state is not a safe haven for criminals, this is not the first time I heard that have been in the news. A very sad and deeply, when I mean sad, deeply sad death also took place during the elections. The party leader for Tonyeko, who was also brutally murdered, his corpse dumped, his body dumped in the bush, and it was later found after some time. But it did back to 2015 and all of that. I heard I have never been that place that you will say, oh, this is new. Now, the definite suspension to the traditional ruler of Ahoda, the community where this incident happened, because the governor said that he was giving his he allowed them to take a portion of the community space to run. So it means that there is knowledge that these people have been in existence.
Absolutely.
So when you say, one of the things you said was that it's sad that they are supposed to be proactive, taking action before all of this. Now, looking for these cultists and looking for the cultists, they've been able to pick 6 of them, but the kingpin is still at large. How much do you think catching these guys is going to actually quell the issue around Ahoda, generally speaking, not just Ahoda East?
Yeah, you know, it was on that exit some youth coppers coming in from their orientation were also being kidnapped.
True.
It's rather unfortunate that this criminality has persisted this length of time. The community cannot claim they don't know this boys involved in this. So also is the traditional ruler. So also is the local government chairman, who is supposed to be the chief security officer. What I've always said is that security is not just the security people alone. It's for all of us. It's for our own safety. And I think that it's time there are consequences, applied to those who are leaders or heads of these individual communities, because these young boys and girls are well known. Apparently, maybe because some of the criminalities bounties are being shared by some of these people also, and that's why this happens to be persisting as well. But I think it's high time we rechannel this our young boys and girls involved in this criminality. If they are good in handling arms, let them join the police, let them join the military. That's where we need their services. Not for them to come and be taking the lives of innocent people and also taking the lives of those who have constitutionally been empowered, to secure lives and properties. This is a very sad situation. And I think that the steps taken so far, suspending the traditional ruler indefinitely, and also, caution the local government chairman, because they know some of these people. They use them in their political campaigns during the election period. And so they just keep them because they believe that they will always have use for them. But they can give them a complete reorientation to change from this narrative and give them skills, train them. Right now, I understand even the state government through the Ministry of Youth Development, the Commission on the PAMSEX, I've been going around different LGS, sensitizing our youth, start having a paradigm shift from this attitude of, criminality. And I think this is the time the governor should walk the talk, engage these youths. We have a lot of farmlands that are requiring young and dynamic people. We have a lot of these, skilled labor required for activities in most of these communities. And I think it's time, the people assigned of some of these responsibilities within the communities begin to take responsibility or bear the consequences of, sanctions that are going to come to it.
Okay, now speaking of way forward and what have you, the call for community policing, manning the police from the local, from the communities itself, and of course the angst towards it by those in authority. For instance, President Buhari said he doesn't even want to have that conversation. How critical is it that policing should not just be about the men in uniform that we know right now, but incorporating the community to be part and parcel of policing if there is need for it? How much of this can help to mitigate some of these such situations?
I'm concerned that we've gotten very good policies in the past, but apparently it's been manipulated by our political elites. Community policing, as is done in certain saner climes, is the way to go. But here we have a situation where even those who are volunteer vigilantes are being used by state actors to perpetuate all kinds of abnormalities. And so community policing, yes, it's a wonderful idea, and in fact it's the way to go, because quite a lot of these policemen that are deployed to these areas are not familiar with the terrain, don't understand the culture and tradition of some of these people. And so, a couple of days back, I heard there are some women that were protesting that the army should be withdrawn from their community, still in this same River State as well, just a couple of days back. And that shows that, you know, there seems not to be some kind of synergy. And this is where the town hall meetings, the sensitizations are quite necessary, because we've got a lot of, you know, issues that we can rechannel the energies of some of these youths, or most of these youths, into. But we're not doing that. And so, of course, you know, I do hand in most cases have the devil workshop, you know, to be. And so, community policing, yes. State policing, yes. But the question is, are we matured enough to apply, you know, the roles and responsibilities that are, you know, that we think should be the scope they will conduct themselves? But in the past, we have not been able to, you know, really demonstrate a maturity that we can handle community or state policing. But that's the best way to go.
All right. Now let's get into Lagos State. The Lagos State chapter of the People's Democratic Party decries what it termed the recurrent incidents of unwarranted harassment of innocent members of the public by certain agents of the state government under the guise of maintaining law and order. The party says in some cases tragically resulted in the loss of innocent lives. The PDP expressed this concern on Sunday in a statement issued by its spokesperson, Honorable Hakeem Amode. Honorable Amode said the responsibility of law enforcement agencies and officers are to uphold law and order in society, and it was quite imperative that these individuals do not overstep their bounds in the execution of their duties. Amode, while citing the recent distressing report of Lagos State Task Force officers fatally shooting dead a truck driver in the Maitu area, which the agency had since denied the involvement of any of its officers, claiming that none of its personnel was posted out for environmental or traffic operations that particular day, except for officers posted to Freedom Park, Ojota, and Maryland to maintain peace and orderliness, where a rally by the Nigerian Labour Congress has been scheduled, and a trending video depicting a woman whose vehicle was immobilized in front of a supermarket in Allen Avenue area by law enforcement officers, despite her not obstructing traffic or causing any disturbance. The PDP wondered why the state government would oppose to the very people who entrusted them with their votes in the first place. The party said law enforcement agencies and officers have the responsibility to uphold law and order in society and should also not overstep their bounds in the execution of their duties. However, maintain that it stands in solidarity with Lagosians in calling for a restraint on the excesses exhibited by various law enforcement agencies operating within a region. All right. I think there's a very, one of the, aside the woman whose vehicle was impounded by task force, there was another video before or immediately after that one where grown men were stripped naked, treated, even your dogs, even your animals, your birds, you can't even treat them as horrible as they treated these men. The story around that has to do with the people, it has to do with an estate land grabbing issue, which they bought a property and the person who is supposed to be the one who has more power, let me not use a wrong adjective here, got thugs. And in that particular video, Ambassador, the police officers were there while this inhumane treatment were being carried out. Now, if you look at Lagos State and the position of the PDP on all of these issues, talking about abuse of residents and natives who are, you know, taxpayers, as the case may be, who also gave you their franchise to lead them, what would you think is playing out in Lagos State right now? Because a lot of people have also misconstrued it to be, oh, it's the president, he has thugs, and his thugs are the ones doing all of this. Is that to the extreme? Or is there any need for the state governor to consciously begin to address some of these issues?
Well, the times of politics has passed. This is the time of governance. And so I expect that the governor and his agents should, you know, take responsibility for some of these malfeasance being done by certain agents that assign responsibilities. And what's also baffles me is when these activities are going on, you see the law enforcement agencies, being around and then watching. That is a recipe for anarchy. And so let the citizens, draw the attention of the governor, because apparently he, as it's usually said, that he's the custodian of security. All the security votes they get, all the security votes the local communities have, they should always deploy it appropriately and discourage these non-state actors' brigandry. You're talking about land that is supposed to be a private issue, and then you now see it being escalated by, agents of government. Maybe for probably perceived opponents to the governor, as the tribunal issue is still pending. Sometimes, we have to also read in between the lines when some of these allegations have been made. But when there are video clips showing that these activities are going on, then such people should be apprehended and then persecuted as well, because nobody should take the law into his or her hands just because he feels or she feels well-placed or probably highly positioned in the society. Let the right thing be done, whether it's in the private-driven or it's government-driven as well. That's my take on it.
Now, speaking of the police and then working with the task force, one of the major challenges that Lagosians have had over time is the use of a task force. You can call them state agents, but task force have been a major menace to Lagosians over time. Now, this is 2023. This is Shaolu's second tenure. Like in the case of the lady who went to the pharmacy to pick up drugs in Allen Avenue, she clearly did not, there was no wrong parking. She parked in the space in front of the pharmacy allotted for vehicles to park. By the time she came out, the task force have come in and, chained up her vehicle. And after when she raised the alarm, they now had to come back and then, unchain it, and they're making a video of her. She was also making a video of them. Now, you would think that there will be some sort of apology. Nothing of that nature. You would think that while all of this had happened over time, the governor of Lagos State would actually, even if not speaking directly, there is some ministry that are responsible for this. They would have come up to say something about this situation that is typically an embarrassment for the state right now. Now, from the truck driver who was murdered, to the woman at the Allen Avenue, to the men who were humiliated. When I mean stripped completely naked in front of the police. Now, with all of panning out, if you look at the governorship election that brought him to power and the accusations that the Labour Party team have in the tribunal, right? If you look at all of that and ask yourself, has the governor actually shown that there is no room for thuggery in Lagos State so far? If not, why do you think he hasn't done anything?
Well, we can't really say the governor is insensitive to these hues and cries of the citizens. What I think is playing out is that a lot of these people were used as touts during the electioning period. And for them, it's a way of compensation. Otherwise, he's gotten LATSMA for road checks. He's gotten, the police also has that responsibility to ensure that civil issues that involves land and all that, it's been also handled. But yes, you're very correct. The governor ought to haven't had all these situations being played out within this period. So make a statement, a very profound statement, just like what the River State governor is doing.
Yes.
Come out and make a profound statement. That way, there wouldn't be this perception of body language encouraging some of these people who no longer probably have means of livelihood again, haven't been used during the election period. So he needs to come out and demonstrate that, look, this is not an environment. Lagos State is not a place where touting, should be taken to this height, where now everybody will think that, because before you know it, a lot of people will probably start sewing uniforms and entering the streets, claiming all kinds of task force activity, and begin to molest and harass people as these people that have been demonstrated so far. So I think the governor needs to come out and make a profound statement that, look, that that should not be encouraged. And some of these people also should be, should be arrested as a deterrent to others who probably may be towing towards similar lines as well. He needs to come out and make that statement.
All right, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that at some point, now that the opposition is playing the role of opposition, that the governor will actually, step up and do the needful.
Hope so.
Now let's get to Northeast. Governors of the Northeast have lamented the rising spate of banditry in the region, just as it accused traditional rulers and local authorities in the 6 states of collaborating with the bandits to cause mayhem among innocent citizens. The governors, under the auspices of the Northeast Governors Forum, stated this in a communique issued at the end of their 8th meeting, which was held in Maiduguri, Borno State on Saturday, September 9, 2023. According to the communique, which was signed and read by the forum's chairman and Governor Borno State, Baba Gana Zulum, and obtained by our correspondent, they said the rising banditry in the region was because of the aggressive military operations against them in other parts of the country. They specifically mentioned Bauchi, Gombe, and Taraba states as becoming a safe haven for the terrorists, while acknowledging the relative success recorded against insurgency. A new dimension of growing banditry is added to worsen the security situation in the sub-region. As a result of the concerted efforts of the military to flush bandits from the other parts of the country, the bandits are now moving towards the northeast. The case is becoming worse in Bauchi, Gombe, and Taraba, places hitherto without banditry. The forum calls on the federal government to urgently intervene to address the issue. The forum is aware that some traditional rulers and other local authorities are conniving with bandits, giving them shelter and cover to commit crimes within the sub-region. The forum unanimously resolved to decisively deal with any traditional ruler or community leader that is found to be harboring or conniving with the bandits. The communique added that the proliferation of legal and illegal mining in the region is becoming a problem, noting that there is a link between mining activities and insecurity, especially the abuse of the mining leases. The forum, therefore, calls on the respective government to enforce compliance with the provisions of local consent as contained in Nigeria's mining policy, and reiterated its call for strict compliance with the provisions of the Land Use Act. Again, the issue of insecurity arising from at community level. One would think that the Northeast, I beg your pardon, states like Gombe and what have you, that have been at the fore of the insurgency over the years, that the Northeast would have been breathing some sigh of relief right now. Unfortunately, that seems not to be the case. Why do you think that these bandits are growing in leaps and bounds, even with the military operating in this area? The governor said that it has to do with the collaboration of the traditional institutions. If that is the case, is there no way out?
I'm worried because we seem to be having this narrative being sustained over the years since we had civilian administration. I mean, certain institutions are empowered to ensure that there is safety and security of its citizenry. The Northeast, the Northwest, they've been in the news for over a decade. We're still talking about the same thing. So much money is being invested in security. Now, the problem I have is that why is there a lack of, political will for the government to prosecute those who have been fingered, those who have been identified as collaborators to this sustained criminality that is ongoing? Certain people were arrested during the last regime have been sponsors of terrorists. And where has the case got into? And then certain traditional rulers also, if I do recall, were also suspended because they were involved also in this conspiracy. But you see, we need to apply the carrot and stick method. When certain stakeholders, critical stakeholders who have the responsibility, to ensure safety and security in their domain, have found one thing. They should be brought to book. We have a system where we complain, we talk so much, but when it comes to taking actions so as to become a deterrent for others that are benefiting from this crime, we are failing in that regard. So we keep doing the same thing and then expecting a different result. That's not going to happen. You have identified traditional rulers. You have identified certain critical stakeholders. Arrest them. Take them to court. See some of these assets they've gotten from these illegal businesses. And then you will see that there's going to be an apparent reduction in this level of criminality that has been identified. Well, first and foremost, I also need to commend the governors for being proactive right now by raising these issues. So it's now led for the state actors to take the needful actions that are necessary, to checkmate this. Because there are a lot of people who are benefiting from this situation. It's not going to go. But when we start putting our feet down, identify these people, persecute them, those actions will serve as a deterrent. So quite a lot of people now see it as one of their mainstay business. And that's my thought on it.
All right, thank you. We hope that, like you said, the state actors can do the needful where necessary. I do not think we want to get back the Northeast where it's been all these years. Now, the General Overseer of the Mountain of Fire and Miracles Ministries, Dr. Daniel Kolowole Olukoya, has cautioned the prophets who are fond of predicting elections in the country to desist from the despicable act. Olukoya said the pulpit in the house of God are for saying truth to the children of God and should not be manipulated for political campaigns for politicians. The Reverend Deliverance Pastor made this known during the sermon on Sunday at the headquarters of the church while lamenting how many Christian clerics that predicted the outcome of the 2023 elections have failed. He said the so-called prophets who brought shame to the religion of Christianity by declaring unfounded predictions on their preferred politicians and the build-up to the elections. He said, you see what happened in Nigeria during these last elections disgraced the religion of Christianity very well. These prophets said this person would win and this would not win. Luke said, if this one wins, I will become a herbalist. If this one wins, let them cut off my hand. If this one wins, this one will die before his wish. All did not come to pass, and they called themselves prophets. Prophets of where? It is madness when you begin to say what God does not ask you to say. The pulpit in the house of God, he said, is the pillar and ground of truth. It is not for political campaigns. And the 2020 election saw many Nigerian clerics coming out to predict who would be winners, a move that caused the confusion among the populace. Now, I'm glad that someone in his position is having this conversation now. The involvement of priests or clerics, as the case may be in Christendom, whether they are called prophets or pastors, prophecies and prophecies and prophecies. Like he said, 99.9% didn't come to pass because a lot of them didn't see Tinubu as Nigeria's president, but Tinubu is Nigeria's president as we speak. So his caution is that priests should desist from using the pulpit for wrong prediction or for political campaigns. For Christendom, how critical is this conversation going forward?
Well, we have a popular musician, late Major Fashek, who said, religion is politics.
Okay.
And true to his vision, years back, that's what we have come to see. Now, even him that is raising this red flag hasn't even addressed the issues that we had. I am bothered because, the religious homes have now turned to become business centers. We hardly talk about God. We are much more interested in our denominations and interested in our so-called self-appointed prophets and all that. And it's so sad that we have a lot of issues in this country, and most of those issues are not even being addressed. Rather, they indulge in areas where they think there will be probably the financial patronage, and so they delve into it. And having the courtesy also to go back to these same followers, they are, giving all these prophetic sayings that, well, we're sorry, this is the reality we have today. Now, I'm bothered because they're just tagging the name Christianity and abusing the word. Because this is like mocking God himself. And I think it's time all of them stay off politics. If they want to play politics, they should get involved and play the politics properly, and not to sit under any guise and put up some kind of facade, and mislead a lot of people in this country. And quite a lot of people, I'm sorry to say, don't seem to appreciate the fact that God is a personal relationship. We have all sorts of, religious homes. In fact, the more religious homes we have, the more criminalities are, taking over all of our spaces. And so I think it's time they begin to withdraw from these involvements and giving, the Christendom such a negative name, including himself, who is cautioning his fellow co-travelers, but hadn't the morality to even discuss the issues that has transpired, which, we all know. We're now living in a society where people, as religious as we are, we despise the truth. We despise coming out to enlighten, especially those of us who probably are not educated or privileged to have access to some of these medias, on how we should live our life. Christianity is all about love. It's all about empathy. It's all about having jets and having convoys. You are telling me to worship God. Then you now go and buy armored vehicles. You now go and buy jets. And then you expect me to believe that truly you are a man, a woman of God. No, that's not the way we are brought up. And so all of them should stay clear, including himself that is raising this issue, because we've had enough of deceit in our society. Go around, a lot of people are looking for jobs. A lot of people are looking for how to survive. We are not even addressing them. We're bothered about talking about prosperity and talking about political situations when we are all seeing the reality on the ground. A lot of them can't come out with that large entourage, the crowd of people they're having, to tell them the truth and ask them to do the right thing. Conscience, morality, that's all we're talking about. And then dignity in labor and dignity in standing for the truth, no matter how it affects us. That's my take on it.
All right, thank you. Everyone will take a short break, and we'll be back on ATM Blowout after now.
Attention broadcasters, independent producers, and content streamers. This is your chance to buy or sell quality content. At Africast 2023, the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, will be launching the very first ever Nigerian TV and film content hub. Join us from the 24th to the 26th of October at the Marriott Hotel Ikeja, Lagos, and be part of a game-changing experience. Content Hub is your destination for content acquisitions, aggregation, licensing, and distribution of both local and international programs across for broadcasters in Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com.ng. Content Hub, your easy and affordable access to quality and affordable content. Don't miss out. The Africast Content Hub, brought to you by the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, in collaboration with NIFS.
Are you a broadcaster, content creator, content distributor, or media practitioner seeking opportunities to amplify your creativity and expand your network? Then, join us at the 13th edition of Africast. Africast 2023 offers participants the opportunity to experience 3 days of world-class exposition through plenaries, streamings, master classes, and workshops showcasing the very best in creativity and technological advancements in the global broadcast and media ecosystem. Theme: broadcast content, synergy, finance, and market. Date: Tuesday the 24th of October to Thursday the 26th of October 2023. Venue: Marriott Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos, Nigeria. For more inquiries, visit www.africast.com. NBC, your right to quality broadcasting.
All right, welcome back to ATN Blowout. We're still discussing issues in the news with Ambassador NST Roland Douglas. Now, the controversy over the judgment of the 2023 presidential elections petition court came to bear at the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria. The bishop says that Nigeria stands on the precipice of uncertainty as the case now moves to the Supreme Court. While addressing attendees at the opening ceremony of the 2023 Second Plenary Assembly of the CBCN in Abuja on Sunday, President of the conference, Archbishop Lucius Iwejuru Ugoji, said after hearing their petitions, the Presidential Election Petition Court delivered its ruling in a marathon judgment on 6 September 2023. The 5 justices of the Election Petition Court unanimously dismissed the petitions. According to them, they lacked merit, despite the billions of naira of taxpayers' money appropriated for the provision of the BVAS technology as a game changer in our general elections. The judges in their ruling tried, among other things, to suggest that it was wrong to expect INEC to keep its promise or obey the electoral regulation of transmitting election results electronically in real time from the polling units. While respecting the views of the judges, 2 of the petitioners now have rejected their verdict as lacking in justice and so have decided to head to the Supreme Court to seek further justice, I believe. Now, as this case moves to the next level, the bishop said the fate of the country continues to hang in the balance and the future of democracy in our land stands on the edge of a precipice. We pray and hope that the Supreme Court judges will neither bend the law nor seek to satisfy the whims and caprices of any party. We also pray and hope for a day in our nation when all election results will be finally decided at the polling units and not at the court. Okay. Conversation is not ending anytime soon. Clearly, Nigerians may not be protesting in the streets, but they are using their voices to raise the issue. Now, well, kudos to the bishops for taking the bold step. Now, but let's talk about the beavers as a game changer. It is quite interesting, if you may, that we live in a country where someone can come out and say, this is a white cup, and I'm giving it to you on a Roland Douglas in public glare before everyone, and before you know it, I would deny ever giving you, even when there are video evidence to that. But let me have you react to the bishop's position on this, for instance.
Well, the bishops are citizens of this country, and they were witnesses to what has transpired in our general elections. It's good they are now sounding the conscience of the citizens. It's rather unfortunate that we are in a technology era, and then we seem to be doing things like, 17th century and the 18th century activities. Politicians are now beginning to make the Nigerians amongst themselves to be completely, disinterested in any future elections. In fact, some people have gone to the extent of saying the incoming Imo, Kogi, and governor and Bayelsa election should not even take place. What they need to do is to allow the chairman to go and announce results at 4 a.m. and then go home, so that they can save taxpayers' money, and as well as save people dying and properties being destroyed and then people being profiled unnecessarily. It's so sad that those who are supposed to be custodians of our constitution are now making it look so ridiculous that even the secondary school students can read in between the lines that something is definitely amiss. And it's time we begin to have, people of conscience, people of morals, both from the religious angle and from, the other religious, the faith groups, to begin to tell Nigerians and those who have decided to join the politics to get things right, because these are just vanities that is taking us to nowhere. When I consider the number of lives that were lost, when I consider the number of those that were injured, properties that were destroyed, I'm surprised that all those were not taken into account, and then you're just getting rulings that makes one to wonder, is it the same constitution that we're all talking about that is being referred to in some of the judgments that have taken place? If you ask me, I think it's a waste of money and time for the opposition to get to the Supreme Court, because it seems to be like a written script. I mean, there are a lot of things coming up now about certain insignias in certain documents. I mean, it's all... We're in a global village and people are watching us and we're just ridiculing ourselves like this. When are we going to start doing things the right way? We are so religious. And yet, the truth is so bitter amongst ourselves. And then, of course, the young generations are coming with technology and they're watching. And so the Catholic bishops have set the pace. I hope that those who are entrusted either, as judges or magistrates or whatever they are, do what is right, because they are creating a precedent that is going to be referenced upon in the future. And I hope they and their families see and feel these decisions they've taken moving forward tomorrow. That's my take on it.
Okay, now there's something you said that caught my attention, and interestingly, that seemed to be how perplexed or hopeless the average Nigerian seemed to be feeling when you said there is really no need, if you're to advise the petitioners, there's really no need for them to bother going to the Supreme Court. However, we'll come back to the beavers and the Festus Okoye statements briefly, but still on this subject. The concern we have of that is if you don't go to the Supreme Court, what becomes of the judgment that they have given? If you look at the FCT 25%, if you look at the use of the beavers, these are clearly stated in the Electoral Act. And of course, there are video evidence like the one we're going to bring forth now, where they were saying how election results will be transmitted and nothing is going to change that. So if they don't go to the Supreme Court, buttressing constitutionally through the Electoral Act, through video evidence, all the points that the justices did not address, for instance, how would you now say that justice has been done or justice wasn't done? Because they still have one opportunity to do that.
Look, if the judges are now interpreting the 25% FCT not to be relevant, then we should have a House of Assembly at the FCT, and then we should also have a governor. And then we now know that, okay, that is our own understanding of the 25% FCT. We're talking about beavers. Have we thought about the humongous amount of money that were invested in it?
305 billion.
And then that is just frittered away. Because they haven't even asked INEC to, to review their expenditure on these humongous amounts of money that has been, given to them. How can we have a constitution, have an electoral law, and then we just throw it away and begin to talk about technicalities? It's so sad. And I mean, we have students of history, we have students of law. They're all watching this. The electoral law is so clear. It's so clear. The constitution itself is also so clear.
Let me kindly interrupt you here.
Yes.
Because when you say the electoral law is so clear, it might look as if it's Ambassador Roland Douglas that is making that statement. Let me just kindly remind Nigerians, the Festus Okoye's position. I saw the video over the weekend. I'm like, hey, this is actually something we should actually bring forth. So I'd like just call the producer to get us that video, and we'll come back to you briefly.
Right.
Section 47, subsection 2 of the Electoral Act 2022 makes it mandatory that to vote, the presiding officer shall use a smart card reader or any other technological device that may be prescribed by the Commission for the accreditation of voters to verify, confirm, or authenticate the particulars of the intending voter in the manner prescribed by the Commission. So the use of the beavers is a mandatory provision of the law, and it's not an option of charity. The Commission does not have a discretion on whether to use the beavers or not. The law says that we shall and must use the beavers, and this Commission is committed to using the beavers because we spend so much time, we spend so much energy, and we spend resources in putting together the beavers. The beavers was developed by the Commission's in-house engineers as a way of making sure that identity theft is minimized as much as possible at our polling unit. So we cannot spend time, resources to develop the beavers and then throw it away and say we won't use it again. It doesn't make sense. So the beavers has come to stay, and we are going to continue to use the beavers in all our elections. The Commission will also transmit polling unit level results in real time. The transmission of polling unit level results is also a mandatory provision of the law, as Section 64, Section 4 of the Electoral Act has made it mandatory. We canvass for the inclusion of the beavers and the electronic transmission of results in the Electoral Act. We therefore have a responsibility to keep faith with our own innovations and at the conduct of transparent elections driven and propelled by technology. Section.
I believe there is more to all of this that Nigerians will be pulling out as the day goes, as the 14 days draws near, and we all begin to look forward to the presidential election. So I'm trying to figure out, this is the spokesperson for INEC. What aspects of this do you think the judges missed? Is it that Festus was not quoting from the Electoral Act? Or the Constitution, being the Grand Norm, did not authorize the Electoral Act Amendment 2022? What exactly do you think would have made the learned judges, justices, as the case may be, jettison a statement in law, they call this prima facie, that came from the body itself, and made rule that as not important, that INEC, in as much as they said is, they can still decide to use what. So what do you think would have made the judges jettison this? Is it to give them opportunity to get to the Supreme Court and actually have a proper defense for themselves?
I sort of words on how to react, because it's like suddenly all of us have developed amnesia to all that happened pre-election, during the election, and after the elections. We had a situation where the chairman himself, that is constitutionally empowered, went to Chatham House, a global environment, and asserted how these beavers and this modern technology will be applied. And stated emphatically that they are mandatory upon themselves. These are the people who set the guidelines, the chairman, then the spokesman, and it's all there. This is not a social media concoction. I mean, globally, when you go to Chatham House, all those international medias are all having records. Then we had the European Union that was really empowered to come and monitor what was going on. And they came up with a report. And I was surprised that the statements that were read by the judges, all that were also not admissible. It's so strange. And that's why I'm saying that, look, whatever we're doing today, we should know that it's a precedence we are setting, because references will be made to it in the future. We are seeing the situation where in this Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa elections, if it's going to hold, it will be, free for all fight, because they know that they can walk away with it. We introduced technology, spent a humongous amount of money, and I felt that that would have been a paradigm shift from the usual elections being conducted. And we test-run it in certain states before the general elections. And then all of a sudden, we have a situation where, there is a technical glitch on the same day, on the same election for the presidency, but there's no technical glitch for the National Assembly and the House of Reps. What are we talking about? Are we little children? Gone are those days when we start, talking and acting and not realizing that there are a lot of people. We are not alone. The globe is, watching. And then our children, of course, are watching. And like I said, this electoral law is so clear. Our constitution, which is the grand norm, is also very clear. So if our so-called learned judges do not see the need to admit this, which was part of what was, rejected, and then they came up with the kind of judgment that they have done, then, like I said, it's better we don't bother anymore. And of course, it's even wrong for the courts to be deciding elections in the first place. And these are part of the things. If the National Assembly people are actually sincere that they want to get the country right, they should start reviewing some of these, the constitutional provisions being written out there. Because when you recall some of these video clips of what Festus is saying, what the chairman also said in Chatham House, those are enough materials for them to also actually nullify this election that are taking place. But it depends on what they are seeing. Probably the judges, they are seeing what 100 and 200 million Nigerians are not seeing. Okay. And so I hope that their conscience will, will live with them.
All right. Maybe a day will come when Nigerian election will be decided at the polls, not at the courts.
Absolutely.
With that day come in our time, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Yes. But now, let's look at something around palliative. And we'll have a video of how a clip we picked around trending video, how the palliatives are being shared. But this time, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project asked 36 state governors in the country to disclose details on spending of the 2 billion naira palliative recently disbursed to each state by the federal government, including names of beneficiaries and details of the reliefs so far provided with the money. In an open letter dated 9 September 2023 and signed by SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, the organization said, it is in the public interest to publish details of spending of the 2 billion palliative and any subsequent disbursement of funds to your government. SERAP said Nigerians have the right to know how their states are spending the few subsidy relief funds. It is part of their legally enforceable human rights. SERAP also noted that transparency and accountability in the spending of the 2 billion naira and any subsequent disbursement to your state would help to reduce the risk of corruption, mismanagement, diversion, or opportunism. The letter further reads, we would be grateful if the recommended measures are taken within 7 days of the receipt of or publication of this letter. If we have not heard from you by then, SERAP shall take up appropriate legal action to compel you and your states to comply with the requests in the public interest. The oversight afforded by public access to the details of the spending of the 2 billion naira palliative and any subsequent disbursement would serve as an important check on the activities of your state and help to prevent abuses of the public trust. All right. Just before we start this conversation, let me bring a clip we found on how Nigerians, how the palliatives are being shared, just so that people can understand where SERAP is coming from, and then we'll come back to the conversation after that.
Is he going on? Fight everywhere. Fight everywhere. Palliative, palliative, palliative. Palliative. From Madara Ward. From Madara Ward. See, they don't the bag. They steal the bag. They don't steal them. They don't steal the bag. Palliative, they run with the bag. C'est our palliative. C'est our palliative. Palliative for grant. See palliative for grant. Auntie, you want? Take. Turn my own, turn my own. Palliative, palliative. You see? They're still fighting. They're still fighting it. They're still fighting. See the back? See, they're still fighting. They're still fighting. Palliative. Yeah. See the wood don't turn us slow. It's happening. Our palliative. Old woman don't fall. Old woman. Mama, not kill yourself. Yankuri, not kill yourself. Don't kill yourself. Yankuri. See children for grant. See everybody. Now they fight up and down. They see the wrong with the bag.
I can never understand if we're humans or animals. I can never understand why planning of basics, like first of all, taking head counts, you understand? First of all, knowing, okay, what are the number of families who are residents in this community, for instance, knowing, okay, we're going to be giving this, each family bring a representative. We cannot have two people from one family. Speak to them in their own native language. Get it? There has to be a meeting point, some sort of a town hall where you can say, okay, each family, get your people, go into these communities, get someone, get the list. No, okay, this is the number of people we have. We have 120 bags of grain, a mixture of wheat, corn, rice, and what have you. So we're going to have to share it among this number of persons. And then if at in less than 3 days, if you get people assigned this tax to them, you should have finished. And now, okay, each family that gets, each family of 20, for instance, should get this number of people. Just sit down, a basic mathematics. This thing shouldn't be rocket science, but why do we have to debase humans to this point, just to even give them something to put in their mouths? Ambassador.
Did you watch The Elderly Lady? I weep for this country because we've lost empathy, we've lost sympathy, and our insatiable greed has brought us this low to treat our citizens like this. We're in a society where we've had all kinds of statistics, all kinds of data. The banks have it, the road safety have it, the immigration passport all have it. But we seem to be, I think, deliberately subjecting ourselves to this inhuman treatment. Look at that elderly lady. I'm not talking about ones that are agile, that has run. Look at that elderly lady. That's a typical example of what our politicians have turned our citizens into. Now, you have the National Youth Service Corps. You have the Red Cross. You have also the NEMA, that is an institution. What stops us from engaging these youth corps that are in the 774 local government areas to take on this palliative distribution? Why must we politicize everything to the point that we demonstrate and showcase our greed and our insatiable appetite for corruption? That's a bag of rice that you see that is surrounded there. Not bags of rice, a bag of rice. And then tomorrow when the children can't bear it and they're going to join Boko Haram, they're going to join cultists, they're going to join all militancy, we complain.
Who wants to see their mother, their aged mother or grandmother falling on the ground because you went to get some cups of grain? Now, SERAPs have continued to provide their services by raising awareness and all of this. Now, their demand for governments to give detailed accounts of the 2 billion and other means money they have so far received. If this is what we are seeing as part of the way they are sharing the palliative, do you think anything is going to come out of SERAPs that they haven't going to? Because we have politicians, political office holders who are bigger than they know. Do you think anything is going to come out of this demand being made by SERAP?
If our institutions, like in Sena crimes, are enforcing their roles and responsibilities, then I would have agreed that the efforts of SERAP is going to translate into something practical and resolute. But unfortunately, we are in a system where the laws, the rules are made for certain people and not applicable to certain class of people. Here we have a situation where we had COVID and we saw what happened. Not too long ago in Bielsa, flood victims that are yet to recover from 2022 now saw their grains in a warehouse. And of course, what is going to happen is not going to change because it's the same set of people. We have the same set of greedy politicians who don't realize that there is a time they have to start showing empathy to Nigerians that are going through a lot of hardship. If these monies that have been sent to the state governors are being rechanneled to agriculture, are being rechanneled to fixing our refineries, we'll be seeing some of these things. Nigerians are very resilient and very hard-working set of people. They are not too interested in the humongous monies our politicians want to take home. They just want the basis. Let the electricity function. Let the refineries function so that we can afford fuel. And then Nigerians don't really bother about what bullet vans and jeeps and the jets that they buy and how they travel and what they do with their money. Nigerians are a contented set of people. But look at the way we've driven ourselves to below animal status.
All right.
The government are not going to give a breakdown of that 2 billion. I can bet you on that. And even the greens that are brought, I can tell you that most of these politicians have said that we are housing them for their party faithfuls, probably, towards December. And maybe towards some of these elections that are coming on in these 3 states as well. That's what is going to happen. And we're just going to keep revolving in circle, like we really don't know what to do. You want to distribute these palliatives? Get the National Youth Corps, the personnel. Support them with the Red Cross and NEMA, and you will see how we'll have a seamless distribution without even going through these details that you have given. I mean, we know the households, we know our locations, but the 774 local governments have all our National Youth Corps members there.
And the numbers, the numbers are also with the INEC, for instance, the registered and non-registered. At least that could actually help to have an estimation. But again, this is Nigeria. We can only hope for the best. When is the best going to come? We have no idea. But now, the Nigerian Army says strict observance of humanitarian and human rights laws will enhance the performance of troops in internal security and peace support operations. The Chief of Civil Military Affairs, Major General Nosakare Ubo, stated this at a lecture and sensitization workshop in human rights organized for troops of 1 Division Nigerian Army, Kaduna State. Ubo was represented by Brigadier General Bola KG, Director, Psychological Warfare. The Nigerian Army Headquarters, Department of Civil Military Affairs, said the Nigerian Army has a sacred obligation to ensure that its personnel perform their duties within the limits prescribed by laws, including International Charter on Human Rights. We'll bring you that report and come back afterwards.
Additionally, the Nigerian Army is currently conducting internal security operations across the country with other security agencies. Therefore, a high level of discipline and professionalism is required from each soldier at all levels in order to ensure a successful operation. This is also in line with the Chief of Army Staff Command philosophy, which I quote, to transform the Nigerian Army into a well-trained, equipped, and highly motivated force towards achieving our constitutional responsibilities within a joint environment. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948, and complemented by the Regional African Charter on Human and People's Rights, which are international human rights law, instruments and contain certain fundamental rights, are inalienable. Nigeria is the signatory to some important international and regional treaties and declarations. In Nigeria, the provision of these international human rights laws instruments have been adopted in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. Some of these rights include right to life, right to dignity of human persons, right to personal liberty, right to fair hearing, right to private family life, right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, and right to freedom of expression and press, to mention but a few. There is no doubt that this strict observance of these humanitarian and human rights laws will enhance the performance of troops either in internal security operations or peace support operations.
Headquarters 1 Div has continued to place high premium on training of its personnel to ensure troops are kept abreast and informed to discharge their duties in line with international best practices. This sensitization workshop is in line with the trend of events and the Chief of Army Staff Command philosophy of having to transform the Nigerian Army into a well-trained, equipped, and highly motivated force towards achieving our constitutional responsibilities within a joint environment. This session is unique considering the significance of the topics selected in collaboration with, I'll leave that out, the knowledge of humanitarian law and the constitutional responsibilities of Nigerian Army soldier in military security operations is of great importance to achieving the mandate.
A very interesting conversation here, Ambassador, to have the Nigerian Army calling for strict observance of humanitarian and human rights laws, for not just for the military, of course, for everyone. Now, one of the major concerns Nigerians have had when it comes to abuse of human rights in this country is also tied around the military operations. Now, if we are the point, let's not go into all of the details and all of where this has happened, not because of time. Now, if we're at the point where they are now the ones saying that there has to be strict observance, and they are the ones leading the conversation, I'd like you to help us understand how interesting this conversation seems to be panning out when it comes to human rights abuses.
Well, I appreciate their efforts because they appear to be one institutions that still have some sense of sanity and discipline. They have been also being proactive by taking the initiative to maintain a cordial relationship between the security and the civilian populace. A lot has happened, and as they're having new sets of people taking over some of these responsibilities, they've come to realize that, look, they can't live in isolation. And so, town hall meetings and regular engagements are necessary so as to reduce the kind of tension that we see in some of these communities. I mean, just like I said 3 days ago, we have the community asking the soldiers to evacuate, for committing taboos. Because a lot of this internal security actually is the role and responsibility of the police.
Yeah.
But because they have found one thing, they have to engage the military. And, the military, they have specific roles. But when you drag them to deal with the civilians, they see them as probably, enemies of the state. Because that's the way they are trained. But the police are, trained to deal with the civilian populace. So them taking this initiative is good. And I hope that it's not just, the talk. But on the field, their men are, conducting themselves in such a professional manner that will, give Nigerians that breath of life.
All right, thank you. Let's wrap up with issues around Niger. The Niger coup leaders have accused France of gathering forces, war materials and equipment in several neighboring West African countries with a view to military intervention. Relations with France, Niger's former colonial power, seem to have degraded after Paris stood by ousted President Mohamed Bazoum following the July coup. France continues to deploy its forces in several ECOWAS countries as part of preparations for an aggression against Niger, which it is planning in collaboration with this community organization. Niger's regime spokesman, Colonel Major Amado Abdraman, said on Saturday the Sahel state is also embroiled in a standoff with the West African bloc ECOWAS, which has threatened to intervene militarily if diplomatic measure to return Bazoum to office fails. In a statement, Abdraman said France had deployed military aircraft, helicopters, and 40 armored vehicles to Côte d'Ivoire, and Benin military cargo aircraft have enabled large quantities of war materials and equipment to be unloaded in Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, and Benin, to name but a few. I'd like to quickly stop here to come in. I'm trying to understand what is France's interest in Niger. You were their former colonial master. They have their freedom and been operating as an independent